Welcome to Sweat Equity. I'm your host, Juliana Vitola, and in this monthly podcast series, I sit down with founders who are in the thick of it. They've raised capital, they've found product market fit, and fundamentally, they're pushing the boundaries of what's possible. In this episode, I spoke with Arjan Singh, the co-founder of Jolie, a beauty and wellness company that improves skin, hair, and overall well-being by purifying water, starting with your shower head. Hey everyone, thanks for joining Sweat Equity. I am the host of the podcast, Juliana Vitola, and I'm joined today by a very good friend. We've known each other for a very long time, Arjan Singh, the co-founder of Jolie. And I'm really thankful to have him here today to walk us through the story of founding Jolie and all the interesting anecdotes he's picked up along the way. So I'll let you chat more about your success, but I'd love to kick it off high level, if you could just give the audience an overview of what Jolie is, what you guys have built so far, how long you've been operating.
So Jolie, it's actually sitting on the table, is a beauty wellness company that's focused on the water that we shower in. We've all paid attention to the water that we drink, whether we filter that water or buy bottled water. Hopefully it's in a glass bottle. But the water that we shower in has been a bit of an afterthought. It's the same water that we're trying to filter that we don't want to put in our body. But the quality of that water is so fundamental to the quality of our hair and our skin, and often is the root cause for many issues ranging from eczema to acne to dryness in the hair, frizziness, loss of hair color, hair shedding even. So our whole focus is purifying the quality of one's water for better skin, hair, and well-being. We've started with the shower. We've been around for 3 years, just over 3 years. We're quite a small team. We've been 3 people for the majority of those 3 years. Wow. Now we're 5 full hand. And we're also not yes, this is a shower head. It's a filtered shower head, but we're not a plumbing company. We're not a fixture company. We're not a shower head company. We think that this is your most important beauty wellness tool because of how fundamental the quality of the water is on your skin and hair.
Awesome. And this is such a fascinating idea to start with. So what gave you the idea to start with shower heads? I mean,
everybody says, it's that great. I was talking about showering all the time.
I assumed it wasn't your true passion.
It was not my I do love showering. Let's put that out there. But my partner, co-founder, Ryan, he is the one that came up with the idea. Mm-hmm. His wife is actually named Jolie. So that's Jolie, of course, means pretty in French, mm-hmm. but also that was the original inspiration, his wife. He was experiencing dry skin one winter on his legs, to be specific. His wife was working at Aesop at the time. So they had all the product you can imagine at home. He's trying all this product, just trying to fix his issue. Nothing's really working. He gets in the shower one day, and he starts thinking about what we often don't think about in life, which is what's obvious and right in front of us. We tend to look into the distance and overcomplicate things and miss what's right in front of us. In this case, the water we shower in. But he started thinking about that because he was like, wait a second. And he gets out of the shower and he starts Googling around and he finds out a few things. 1, the water is not as clean as we think it is. 2, the water is causing skin and hair issues. And 3, there are shower filters that you can buy on Amazon for $20, $30. And again, he's just trying to fix his issue. He adds to cart. Next day, Amazon, it arrives, puts it in, and his dry skin's gone. He had the exact same reaction that you just had. A few days go by, the thing breaks down. It was ugly. Pressure was bad. Wasn't really working anymore. Dry skin was coming back. He's all right, let me try to find something that has some quality to it, hopefully a certain aesthetic, because clearly something was working, and he couldn't find anything. And that's when the mindset shifted from personal to business. And we had known each other not super well, but we had met years before. We were reconnected around this time just to have a chat. And I fell in love with the idea. I thought it was so simple. And when I was told the idea, I also was like, I was embarrassed. Mm-hmm. It was like an aha moment where, not from a business standpoint, just personally, I've been showering at the time for 27 years of my life, or not since I was 0, but for over 20 years. And not once have I thought about the water that touches my body every day.
Yeah.
And it just it clicked right away. And that's what really drew me to it. And then immediately, the next sort of thought was, there's so much creative potential with the storytelling oriented around a space that we all know doesn't just clean us physically, but mentally, spiritually. It's a great thinking session. We all know shower thoughts, et cetera, et cetera.
That's so fascinating because I would not initially think of showering as something that you could craft a story around.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't really think about it much at all. So it sounds like you didn't even take much convincing to buy in on the idea.
No, not really. And I had come back from Scandinavia. I was living there for about 3 years. I also studied there for 6 months and fell in love with that part of the world. And I've always wanted to start something. And as we were talking about earlier, particularly a brand within fashion or hospitality, that sort of realm, something lifestyle oriented. And this is not too far adjacent from that. We definitely approach it from that lens. But the convincing wasn't that difficult. I was looking at a few other things at the time. I actually thought, this is during COVID as well, I was sketching cuffs. I wanted to do a jewelry brand.
Cool.
All oriented around a cuff. But the conviction in the idea was there, but more so the conviction of my partner. And we really saw eye to eye in terms of our viewpoint on how to build a brand.
Is that how you knew it would be a good fit with the two of you?
That was one initial check, which wasn't intentional. It's just sort of like, oh yeah, of course. And then the other thing that we did is he wasn't necessarily looking, because he was like already working on it.
Okay.
And I asked him, are you looking for a partner or first hire? He said, I'm not really looking for anyone, but I definitely think that there's something here, and maybe it's more first hire. It's what he said initially. That was like on meeting one. And then we decided to work on a project together over the course of about 4 weeks on this. And that really showed him that, okay, you are not an employee. You are co-founder, partner, and that's what he said a few weeks into it. And that also showed that there was a relationship there that could be, fruitful for the business.
Yeah. And you feel you have like complementary skill sets. You focus on different aspects of the business.
It's a little bit different than what one thinks to be a traditional partnership, where one person is like, oh, numbers, others more creative. We're both very left brain, right brain. I would say that Ryan is certainly more based like show me the money, for lack of a better phrase. I'm still roped up into the whole art of it, for better or for worse. And at the same time, though, I speak business, and I am certainly very business oriented, but I also love the emotional component of creating a brand and connecting with the customer and getting them moved, as opposed to just thinking about a transaction. Knowing, though, that it all leads to that at the end of the day, and you're building something that should stand the test of time, which, you can't be too sales oriented if you're trying to build a long-term relationship with the customer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You said you knew you always wanted to be a founder. Is there a specific reason why?
I think that I've never really used the word founder, but I've always wanted to start something.
Start something.
Yeah, I'm just sort of thinking.
No, that's fine.
I've always wanted to start something, and I would always get mad at myself for not starting something. And I had in my iPhone or notebook at the time when I was in high school, ideas, and I have a bunch of ideas. And then I was making a self-deprecating joke because I then turned it to ideas that I'll never start. Because I would have all these ideas and I'd look at it and be like, dude, you're not starting any of it. Because I would wait for it to be perfect. And that was the ultimate, barrier to starting something, is perfection. And then I was like, yeah, here's another idea, but you're never going to start it. And it wasn't until one really good piece of advice when I was in college. I was catching up with a friend of mine back here in New York, and I was talking about some class that I did, and I want to start this thing, and he said, Arjan, just worry about doing this shitty first draft. And then he said, actually, see how shitty you can make it. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, see how bad you can make it. Because then it removes pressure of making something perfect, and it kind of flips it on its head, and it forces you to put pen to paper, literally or figuratively. And that action, just starting, that push, is what I realized I always needed. And this game of and it could be I wanted to start a magazine when I was in college.
Wow.
And we started working on it. It never actually ended up happening, but we started off with the approach of, don't worry about making it good. Just start.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I would think perfection And striving for perfection is like the trap most people fall into that do want to start something.
Yeah.
But it's hard because I think the people who are really driven and want to build their own business also tend to be perfectionists and have a really high standard that they hold themselves to.
Yeah, and
so how do you get past that?
If I look back at starting Jolie, and the very simple thing, look back at the website and how the website looked when it was just a landing page to where it is now, or everything evolves. And if you have to have that shitty draft to get to the really good draft. You don't just start with a really good draft, right?
Yeah.
So it's not binary. It's not like, all right, this is it. You continue to iterate on whatever it is, and then it evolves, and you might not want to put it out there in the world until it's a certain level, and that I certainly agree with, but you got to start. To answer your question, though, about wanting to be a founder or starting something, I've always been surrounded by brands growing up. My family works in fashion, and that sort of, they joke around, they created a monster. I just fell in love with that world of what a brand that, really connects with people does beyond just offering you a product, but it makes you feel a certain way. And spaces do that as well. My real passion is hospitality. And there'll be a time in my life when it becomes the rest of my life, it'll be focused just on that because of this ability to create your own world and offer it to others. And that's a phrase that I've been saying since I've been 13 in terms of what I want to do. I also, when I was in high school, right around the time we met, I was doing a few internships for people that were starting brands. The first being Saturdays, which is a surf shop, coffee shop that ended up turning into a full clothing line based here in New York and since grown to Japan and around the world, and working for people at I was 15, that were so passionate about what they were doing. That was also an extension of who they were, where work and life blend together. That's what I prefer. I don't like a separation of work and life.
Wow, hot take.
Ideally, if you're doing something that you love, that also is social in nature, and I think when you have a medium, and again, it could be, it tends to be something consumer oriented, something like a media company or a magazine, that is a way to get into any door. Like if you're an editor, or you're starting something where you're interacting with others across the spectrum of all industries, it's a really great way to meet people, and I love meeting people. So I like that extension of work into life.
That's really interesting. I do think that's something that might even be uniquely consumer oriented when you're building in the D2C space. And I did notice like all the companies you listed from the idea stage, even so you wanted to start a magazine in college, you toyed around with the idea of starting a jewelry company. It's always this direct to consumer, definitely physical consumer products. Yeah. And I mean, I understand that you want to create the world theory, but is there another reason that you're drawn to consumer products specifically?
I think that, I've always, that's just the world that I'm interested in. And, if I go next, I always thought immediately I'd go into hotels and, build, again, a connection to a person. I love, design. I love, creating something that people can touch and feel. And that's just, I'm oriented that way. I never really had an idea or was never passionate about starting something that lived within a phone or a screen. I could get excited about it, but I'd say, not for me, someone else should do that.
Right. That makes sense. And so talk about going from idea phase, not trying to perfect the process, and launching Jolie and actually like deciding on the design of the shower head and producing the first couple of units. Like what was that experience like?
So there's one thing you said there, which I'm going to pull out, which is decide and just highlight.
Okay.
And I've been blessed to not feel anxiety up until the point of starting Jolie prior to launch. And there's a few things here. One, for anyone that's thinking of starting something, I think the most difficult thing once you're in it is, particularly in the beginning stages, is one, you have to think about the universe of what there is to do, right? Then you have to think about in what order do I do it? Okay, you have to prioritize it. And lastly, you have to do it yourself, right? No one's in a traditional job. Someone tells you, hey, here's the plan. Let's go ahead and do this. And you got to do this. And it's due on this date. And then you execute. Then you get a little bit more senior. And then you might know what the overarching goal is. But then you have to think through, this is all the different things that are going on, and then you prioritize it. And then maybe when you get to the top, because it's not too different, founder versus like if you're running a big company and you're managing a lot of people, you also have to think from that perspective. But I have this visual of myself, whether this is true or not, but if I had a pen and piece of paper right now, I would draw myself sitting at my desk, looking at the wall or like a blank computer screen, just going like, and I'm not saying that that's the experience of starting Jolie, but at moments, you're just like, whoa, okay, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And, you pull on like talking to friends or, I have a partner, a co-founder, and he's been through this before, so that certainly helps. But that was this, and I pulled out the word decision. When I was not making a decision is when I felt anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I made a decision, as soon as I made it, anxiety would go away. And it was this feeling of, it might come back again, but it was this momentum and like, all right, you're moving forward. And I think what we have been very good at is we make decisions quickly. We're also very good at saying no. And that's allowed us to also, we're very focused. But bringing this from just to talk about, you said idea to product, we had a sketch of what we thought we wanted this to look like. And more importantly, we had some characteristics that we wanted this to achieve. The shower had that filter, so it needs to have great filtration. It should be the best that's available on the market because we had this experience of trying all these filters on Amazon that were very cheap and they would work and then they suddenly wouldn't. We were confused because they said they had a 6-month lifespan and they removed 99% of chlorine. We then sent them to labs and it removes 99% of chlorine for the first shower. That's it.
Wow.
They were using they were using carbon, which is used in drinking water, but is not, also known as charcoal, not great in the conditions of a shower, which is hot water and high pressure. So we don't have charcoal in the filters. We use a material called KDF55. It's way more expensive. It performs the best at removing chlorine and heavy metals. And so that was one, great filtration. 2, the shower needs to be a great shower, meaning amazing pressure, good coverage. So we designed the shower head to ensure that it optimized the pressure from your pipes. You can't change your pipes, but many people said, wow, this is actually better pressure than we had before.
Okay, I 100% agree with that. I have to just interject here.
Which is surprising, right? You think?
Especially in a New York apartment, though. You're not working with like the highest quality shower system. And when I installed mine, it was like night and day. And I was curious about that. I was like, how is the water pressure improved from what it was?
Yeah.
Or this is just a new shower head. But
yeah. And you would think with the filtration, we thought like, oh, we're going to have to sacrifice pressure, but it was the opposite.
Yeah.
The other thing is we wanted this to be instantly recognizable and over time, ideally iconic. So if you are over your friend's house and you are there hanging out and you go to use the bathroom and you see their shower and you see this hanging, you should know that this is a Jolie without having to go look up and get close to the logo.
Yeah.
Because
this has happened.
Yeah.
It has, I swear.
Because the shape is iconic. It doesn't look, or it's recognizable. I won't call my own product iconic. I think hopefully over time we'll get there. But it stands out. Definitely. And it also doesn't look like a UFO that's in your shower either, which we didn't want that. We work with an agency that has product designers and engineers as based here in Brooklyn, and then a supply chain team in China.
Okay.
And they were able to help us execute and test, etc. Essentially hold our hands as we went through the process.
Right. Okay. And that's because you didn't have design experience yourself specifically in this category.
We're not engineers. We knew, we're design oriented, so we knew what we wanted to look like and feel. We purposely wanted a soft feel on the face and this color blob. We thought we could create as an identity, but we didn't have the, I can't go into CAD and make a model for a team, production team to then produce. Right.
And you only needed it for the initial idea, the concept of the design, and then you guys were in charge of really scaling up the business from there once you had it locked in.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because I actually think, well, first of all, in my opinion, it's a really good looking product. another thing I noticed is I feel like you've made shower head sexy. Like, and that is seemingly an impossible feat. Like, this is like an attractive shower head, you know? And it's like a very unsexy category. And so how did you do it? Like, am I falling into the branding of it all, or like, is it a combination of factors? Like,
I think that because often people say exactly what you said, it's a category that's not sexy. I actually think it's real. Shower should be really sexy, like off the bat.
yeah.
So there's a lot one can do there, but I know what you mean. If you ask anyone, if I go out to the room here in a co-working space, do you know what brand of shower head you have? They'll say, I don't know, right? And then if you show up a photo of a Kohler, a Delta, a Waterworks, can you name any of these brands, which is which? They would also say, I don't know. So I think the design element helped, but what really drove the appeal of the product beyond, again, just its function, going back to what we were talking about earlier, truly building a brand, is we always go back to one primary belief: people influence people, right? It's been like that forever. Sounds silly and obvious to say,
Right.
but what that meant is when we launched, we wanted to get the product in the hands of the right people, those that can influence others, not influencers that their day job is in, like that's what they are in occupation, but it could be a great chef. It could be someone who talks about skincare all the time. It could be a skincare brand founder because we're complementary to all skin and hair care. It could be people that, have a cultural sort of following, and we started very narrow in downtown New York. We gifted about 120 units, and we stayed with that strategy. It's the core of what we do today.
Oh.
We're seeding product, as it's known, more than hundreds of product, and it's the most efficient return on spend if you think about it as ad spend. It's the cost of your goods plus shipping, and because we've done this for so long and we stuck with the strategy, a few things happened. One, initially, people that often get gifted product were getting a sense of FOMO because they saw someone, like this person had it, that person had it, and they're like, wait a second, this seems cool. And then they started reaching out to us, where we then had leverage to say, hey, sure, like, can you create a piece of content like this? When we send out product, we don't ask anyone to create content, but when people were reaching out to us, now we have more people reaching out to us than the other way around. We don't say yes to everyone, of course, but we wanted to essentially flood the market and get people talking about it because we know that the product works. It's built on efficacy. It's not built on trend. If you install it and use it, you'll likely love it. If you likely are loving it, then you're most likely going to talk about it, whether that's over the dinner table, or I remember you told me a story about you're going to the North Fork for a wine tour with all the girlies, and like everyone was, somehow it came up,
It
right?
was insane. Yeah.
That was early on. That was a few years ago. I remember.
It was, yeah.
Um,
And they were not influencers.
see,
Just normal people.
and when people say, how do you one person asked me once in an interview, I think it was Fast Company, do you work with any celebrities or like brand partnerships? And my answer was, we work with your best friend.
Yeah.
Meaning, that's how we want you to hear about it, not from Kim Kardashian. And I think the power of hearing it from a trusted friend or family member or colleague is far greater than hearing about it from anyone else. So that's the core of the strategy. And then going to a bit more of the storytelling from the brand side is we, leverage culture, specific moments of culture. We like to show up in ways that educate. So a few things that we did when we launched, and also prior to launch, we have this water report that's on the website. It's also a lead gen tool, but it's purely or primarily educational. You give us your zip code and email, and we'll send you a water report. We don't create the water report. We're licensing it from all the water systems around the U.S. They're required to test what's in their water, and it shows how many levels above the health guidelines your specific water is. So that educates people, step one. And then, we like to engage with the space of the shower beyond just the function. Of course, the core of it is telling people how this solves problems. And that's very much this word of mouth of, customers online posting about it, talking about it in person. But one quick example, and I'm reminded of it because I'm looking at the red shower head, the red Jolie, we featured it about a year ago. I run into a friend on the street, or an acquaintance. I said, "Oh, how's it going?" I was like, "Hey, Arjun, it's okay. My girlfriend just broke up with me." I saw that coming. But what I didn't see coming is that we'd be fighting over who gets the Jolie and we're living together. And I'm just thinking about this, and I had a light bulb moment. Fast forward to Valentine's Day this year, we did a series of videos. Each was a different emotion associated with Valentine's Day: heartbreak, infatuation, self-love. Heartbreak was a scene, it was about a 30-second video, where for the top right corner, it's filmed in New York, you see clothes that are falling, presumably from a window, then golf clubs, then like shoes and books, and then you see a guy who's running with the Jolie in his hand, and then a woman who's running after him, and they're playing tug of war with the Jolie.
That's great.
And we did this, with other emotions as well. Doesn't talk about skin and hair. It doesn't talk about what the product does, but it shows a love or obsession with the product.
Yeah.
We have this whole series called Water And. It's a video series where we explore the connection of water to all else that we love in life. Again, we don't talk about skin and hair. Water and oysters, their natural water filter. Water and painting, you watercolor, you're mixing paint with water. So we delve into the process or the involvement of water in all other areas of life. That is not the core, but it definitely surrounds and builds something that is more than just the product.
Yeah, and that brand association of Jolie with clean water in all aspects of life, that's really powerful. I was going to say, on my way over here, I took a cab from Uptown. And
The truck?
I didn't pass a truck this time, although I have passed a truck before. I passed your pop-up stand in Soho.
Yeah.
And so what's that all about? Like, I have passed now trucks. Obviously, I've heard the word of mouth first person.
Sure.
You have the pop-ups. Like, how do you think of this all coming together into building one cohesive brand experience?
So in terms of building a cohesive experience, water is our focus. Water in the shower. So water is the lens through which we view the world. Whether that's that Water And series or what we do every single day, or whenever we host an event, we do this event called Oysters and Wine. We feature oysters because they're a natural water filter. We donate to an organization called the Billion Oyster Project. They're restoring the oyster reefs in New York City's harbor to clean the water. That's the purpose. So there's this thread of what we do. We have a series called Shower Thoughts. It all sort of connects to who we are as a brand to keep it cohesive. The pop-up is this old shack that's been around. It's like a shed. It's on the busiest corner in Soho, Prince and Mercer. You have Finelli, the oldest restaurant in Soho, on one corner. You have the Mercer Hotel, which is if you know type of hotel. And then you have the Prada store, and then you've got the shed that's right in front of it. We took over last year. It's a national landmark. Initially, we were told we had to keep it red, so we kept it red last year. Now it's black, and we did it around Valentine's Day. And the way in which we activated it was we included flowers. So basically, if you buy a Jolie, you get your choice of 3 dried flower bouquets, one of 3. Each of them had eucalyptus as the base because people like to hang up eucalyptus underneath their shower to give an aroma in the shower. So we created something around that. And then we had food and drink that only used the lens of water in the food or drink. And we offered that. It was a very hospitality-oriented experience. And it was more marketing than it was, let's sell 1 million Jolies. We also created a mock shower. And that was just a representation of the brand. We then extended it last year, and then we brought it back this year. It looks a little bit different, but it's the same concept. And then the truck that you referenced earlier, any brand can take ad space on a truck that has nothing to do with the brand itself. People think that there are a bunch of Jolies in the trucks. That's not the case. I think it's good that people think that we're delivering 1 million Jolies every day. Excuse me. But we took over the ad space, and the way in which we approached it is we wanted something that was specific to the medium, something that was visually arresting, and something that would educate, but educate in a way that would cause you to think. So you sort of connect the dots yourself. And we were inspired by a dirty van where one might write on the window, "Wash me." We went to Home Depot, we bought a bunch of dirt, we bought a white foam board, we put that dirt on the white foam board, and we wrote with our fingers, "What if we told you that your shower water was dirtier than this truck?" With a question. We photographed it, and that was what the truck was wrapped in. And now what we have, it looks like a really dirty truck.
Yeah.
So one that stands out, and then it has this phrase, and it's comparing what you're looking at to the water that you're showering in every day. and it's asking you the questions, so then you start to think about it, and then you're like, holy shit, am I showering in water that's actually that dirty? And that has been the most effective form of out-of-home marketing that we've done. We started with 5 trucks in New York. The guy that runs this, the ad space for the trucks, said, hey guys, Arjan, Ryan, we can do like 15 trucks. We can do 2 in Chicago, 2 in LA, 2 here. And our response was, no, we're going to do 15 trucks in New York. And what guides a lot of our decision making is 2 words: momentum and density. We want people, like if you want to create, and I don't love using this reference, but I'll use it because it makes the point. You want to create a fire, and you have matchsticks to create that fire, and you want the fire to be this roaring big thing. If you put matchsticks in each corner of a room and you light all of them, the fire is never going to meet and become this big thing. But if you put them close together and light them, then there you go. What we wanted, and this happens, if you're walking around New York, you'll walk a few blocks and you might see 2 of the trucks. And then you see the shack. And then you see a poster that we did. And then you see something. And we're not trying to take over the city where it's, annoying. But we want to create this multi-touch point. You hear it from a friend, then you see this truck, and then you go online, and then you see maybe an ad, see it on TV now, or commercials. And it's the element of focus into a community, I think, has also resulted in the business growing as it has.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That reminds me of something the Lululemon founder said once, actually, about viewing the same concept in multiple formats and how that really solidifies a trend or a theme, and sort of inspired him to actually start Lululemon in terms of like seeing yoga in multiple formats and being able to recognize the trend from that occurrence. But something else you said earlier made me think, I feel like developing this like strong sense of connection with the consumers you're actually providing product to is so important with a D2C brand. And also getting to that like cult like following where there's just like deep consumer love for the product, to the point where they're telling their friends about it, and it's completely spur of the moment. I think you once gave me an example of how customers reach out to you all the time with their stories of how Jolie has changed their life. It's changed their hair, it's changed their skin, it's made them more confident. Could you share a little bit more about that? I think that's really impactful, especially as you build like an enduring brand within the consumer space, which is quite challenging to do when consumers are notoriously quite fickle.
I think even more important than developing a connection with the customer or the consumer is, and it's going to sound similar, but I think there's a nuance, is when the customer develops a relationship with you, or the customer develops a relationship with the product. And I think in this case, that's what's happening, because we don't reach out to every customer and say, hey, we want to get to know you. Let's hop on a phone call or get a coffee. That would be a little weird.
Yeah.
The product works, so that is a big thing that makes a difference, right? So it's built on efficacy. We're making people look better and feel better. This is also something that you stare at every single day in a very intimate space. I mean, you are naked in the shower every day, hopefully. Hopefully you're showering every day, not wearing clothes. And there's this relationship that one develops, and the way in which we speak to the customer. So that's one thing where we come across as a friend, as a person. We're not leading with our faces. We're not founder-led from an image standpoint, but the brand feels like one that is there for you. And the customer then develops a relationship with the product because it's doing something for them consistently over time. And that, similar, I think, to what the Lululemon founder was saying about seeing multi-touch points or different formats, is also about consistency or frequency. And there's this frequency. Again, it's really because you shower every day and you just happen to be in that world, that really makes a difference, along with all the other fun things that we do, whether it's a April Fool's meme that makes a customer laugh, that then gives them a little bit more of a relationship to the product beyond what they look at every single day. But it really comes down, I think, to the efficacy and this obsession, and then creating videos like the one where the couple or former couple was fighting over the Jolie. A lot of people were like, I totally relate to this.
Yeah, I see myself in that ad type of thing.
One person, early days, within the first 6 months, I emailed customer service. Hey guys, I've not yet bought a Jolie. I'm very excited to buy one, but I have one seemingly silly but actually very important question. And we're like, what is it? And he says, well, can you remove the Jolie logo from the shower head? I said, unfortunately, you can't do that because it's part of the product and it's not like a piece that we can just remove. And for whatever reason you want to remove it. And he responds, oh, that's really a shame because my ex-girlfriend's name is Jolie and my current girlfriend really wouldn't like that.
Oh.
So if if the name of the brand was a little bit more popular as a person's name, maybe we would not have as much success. But I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that's a really interesting anecdote. I had a feeling it might go in that direction.
Yeah.
At first, I was curious, why else would you need it removed? That's too funny. I was curious about something else. So you all, in terms of like starting the business and scaling it, going either or one, whatever you want to call that early process, you all chose not to really go the traditional venture route. Raised a small amount of capital, I think, but didn't intend for this to be the typical VC-backed business. Can you talk to why and how you knew that you only needed a certain smaller amount in size in order to really get this off the ground?
Well, we wanted to be in control, and we didn't want a proper board, at least now, or at least in the beginning when we were getting going. We wanted to raise just enough. And we think that I always found it odd that people celebrate fundraisers. Because then I'm like, show me what you've done with that money as opposed to the fact that you got money. That's not
right.
And of course, fundraising is not easy. But I prefer to be quiet and not announce the fundraise and then tell you once I've done something with it.
Yeah.
Now, I just took this and turned it into that. We raised friends and family, we were bootstrapped. I don't know if you could call that bootstrap. I don't know what really defines bootstrap, but we raised not institutional capital. We didn't go to proper funds. There are a couple funds that are involved, but in a very non-traditional way where they have a very small amount and we never did a priced round, just safe notes.
Right.
For those that are familiar, that are listening to this. And it really came down to control of our own livelihood. And also we had a desire and more than a desire, we had a goal to build a profitable company that was profitable on the first purchase.
Oh.
Again, for control.
Right.
And like control of our own destiny and livelihood where we don't need a lifeline.
Right. I think that's such an interesting statement and a really interesting way to put it because, I mean, in this current macro climate, more companies are realizing that achieving profitability does put you in control of your own destiny. I think in years past, like the hype cycle of post-COVID, like maybe peak COVID, it was like 2020, 2021, and people were just raising capital left and right, huge rounds, huge valuations. Profitability wasn't really stressed. And then when all of that hype came crashing down, suddenly people realized that they didn't have control over their own businesses. I think it was a very hard reckoning for a lot of founders. But it is interesting to prioritize that from day one. And I think particularly interesting for you all because, I mean, this is a physical product, right? You wouldn't naturally think that you could scale it and achieve profitability as quickly as you could in another industry where the costs maybe aren't as high from out the gate.
Yeah.
But I think you guys have managed to run the company quite lean. You said you're 5 people today. You've been 3 for a very long time. Margins are quite good. I mean, you are profitable now. So how have you maintained that? Sometimes I also think raising a smaller round at the outset can be beneficial because it forces you to be really diligent with the way you spend cash.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I think if you're sitting on a bunch of cash and you get loose with, oh yeah, we can afford to spend that much on a photo shoot or whatever it is.
Right.
And it made us very diligent, as you said, or strict. In terms of the efficiency of the team, we're a one product company, so we're not churning out. Currently, we have one product.
Right.
Don't want to brand us as a one product company. We have more product to come, but we look over a much longer time horizon. And we're creating a new category. We want to be crystal clear in who we are, externally and internally, because we actually have other product that's designed. I can show you after. It's, sitting here in the office, prototypes, but we want to keep the message very focused. We know that there's a lot of opportunity with this, and we want to make sure what we launch is, at a certain standard. But there's a lot of it. Focus goes a long way, and we've been really good at saying no to opportunities. We actually just pulled business from a retailer that was a pretty sizable business. I'd say absolutely, relatively, it wasn't, but $500,000 is not nothing. And we pulled the business because we knew that it wasn't the right place to focus. It's a name brand retailer too.
Yeah.
But there are other retailers that we've launched / are launching with where we said our time and energy is better spent here. And ultimately we'll be better off if we focus here. So goodbye, other retailer.
Wow. And that's really interesting, especially because you said, I would love to know more about your decision-making framework in general, because earlier you said, not only are you not afraid to say no or shut down opportunities like that, but you also are quick to make decisions. And that is really important when you are running a business and scaling a business. And so sort of a high level question, but do you have a framework for evaluating decisions, or is there a reason the team can move so quickly? Is it you're small, you're directly aligned? What helps you move so fast? And
we're very aligned on the goal and what we're trying to build here, and we're very focused. We know who we are. We know that, there are certain, water is the lens. We're all about hair and skin. We're a beauty wellness company. So sure, Home Depot and Lowe's might be interested. We might have had phone calls, but we know that now is not the time because we're building the positioning and we're very clear on that positioning. And I think one thing that guides my decision making is not a framework, but it's a sort of an experience early on with Jolie, where we thought we were going to launch a bunch of other products that would sit oh, this is great. This is our hero product. And then we're going to have some accessories that sit in the bathroom or maybe, that you take with you, and it all sort of tells a cohesive story. Sounds great. Let's meet with this product designer. We met with him and here's our vision. Awesome. Comes back. Here's the fee based upon the scope. Cool. Sounds good. And then a day later, and this is a gift from above, he comes back and says, sorry guys, I actually completely miscalculated the fee. It's not that much of a difference. And it wasn't. We would have said yes. But just wanted to put that forth because I made an error. Sure. We get that email and we were looking at it. And Ryan says to me, he's forget the fee and all that. Take a step back. Do you think your time, money, and effort is better spent in this new set of product? That time, money, and effort? Or is it better spent putting it back into what we already know is working? This is maybe month 4 or 5 of business. In a split second, I said, oh, clearly this. And that was that. And I go back to that experience with where is the time, money, and effort better spent? And it sounds like a silly, obvious question to ask, but sometimes you just make a decision without thinking. And I said we make quick decisions, but we're very thoughtful about the decisions. And I think we were able to do them quickly because we know who we are. We know what guides it. I don't have a framework right now.
Right.
At this point, it's just, if it feels right, but it's not just a feeling, the feeling's informed by knowing who we are and where we're trying to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. I would also, you hinted at it, so there are other products in the pipeline. What is the future vision? If you don't want to discuss the specific products, really fine, but how do you, where do you want to take this? What's the vision to the whole company?
I think that staying within beauty, or what we call beauty wellness, because they're inherently connected, is where the brand will live for most of its time. I would say it will always be that. There are definitely verticals where we can go that connect to that, or it's a different vertical, but we approach it from that lens. And you can think hospitality. Now I'm going very far out.
Right.
We've always had an idea around our flagship store being a way to experience the product, but it also be another business line. Sauna, cold plunge, and then the best shower of your life.
Wow.
You sweat out the toxins and you get in a shower that's also clean. And that is a way to experience the product. Because I don't think people are not that inspired to walk into a shop and just take a shower. But if you're going to be offered sauna or cold plunge and then if you want to shower after that, that's a way to test the product. That makes a little bit more sense. That could also be its own business, and we see them popping up left and right, at least here in New York. And so that's one thing. Immediately, though, we're going to go to the other faucets in the bathroom. We're all about filtering water. Babies and young kids, they take baths until a certain age, and then you start showering. Baby toddler skin is very sensitive. Eczema is a big concern. So this will be marketed toward parents, their kids. You all know parents will spend anything to make sure that there's no chlorine on the baby. So that's one product. We'll go to the bathroom sink where we tend to wash our face, where we brush our teeth. We won't go to drinking water.
Okay.
Because, I mean, maybe we will, but it's not the focus. That is a very built-out space. While the water that you ingest also has impact on your skin in particular, we don't want to be confused as a drinking water company. We really want to focus on beauty. And then we could also, we see ourselves developing fragrance.
Wow.
And going more to the emotional component. When we launched Jolie, the first 10,000 units, we actually made a fragrance for the box, not for the shower, but for the opening of the box. Because the experience starts as soon as you get it. Technically, it starts before. But certainly, as a milestone, we get the box and you open it up. And we are curious, what does clean water smell like? And of course, water that is completely pure will smell like nothing. But the connotation of clean water around the world, think the Caribbean, the Mediterranean, water that, looks great, will have a certain scent associated with it. So we worked with a nose that does perfume, and I had said, imagine you're on the shores of Corsica, was just the reference that we had, and you're reaching to the water, you pick up a pebble, you smell that pebble, that's what we're going for. I think that person nailed it. We created this oil that we put on a ceramic that was in the box, so like a $50 size. And as soon as you opened it, you're like, whoa, you're transported, because we know that scent is transportive. People to this day still ask us, hey, when are you going to make that into a body fragrance or home fragrance or incense?
Wow.
So there is a whole, through the lens of water, we can create a line of fragrance that, again, is creating that world of Jolie.
I do love the way you describe the customer experience of opening the box. I remember even when I opened mine, I was so impressed. First of all, it was so easy to do. Like, it was all laid out there for you. Even the plumbing tape wasn't there. Or this acoustic. No, it was. well phrased. But yeah, it was so simple and it was so aesthetically pleasing. I actually have the chrome colored one. But it was just like an awesome experience from the start. I couldn't believe that you had crafted it. Like, the box is aesthetically pleasing. Everything I needed was in there. It was just like, it really was an experience. And I think that is such an important aspect of building a brand. And you guys really nailed it.
We also, so there's the emotional, the experience part of it, but operationally and logistically, there's a whole reason for the way in which we did the box, particularly if you have an online order. So often if you order something online, there will be a box, primary packaging, that sits in a corrugated brown shipping box. We eliminated the latter part of that. So the box this is the retail box, so this is a little bit different. It sits on the shelf in a store. You buy it online. The box that houses the Jolie is the box that it ships it. So that blue box is actually corrugated material. And then we created like a little, because another annoying thing is opening a package.
Right.
And you have to get a scissor, and it's just there's a pull tab. You just pull around, and then you lift the top, and there's your Jolie. It also serves as marketing. But back to the operational side, the benefits there. One, we reduce additional costs because we're not putting it in another box. A little bit reduction in weight, not much, but a little bit. And then we also have everything assembled and ready to go when it arrives at the warehouse coming from China to the US. So all that the workers on the floor need to do is put a shipping label on the box and send it out. Most of the times with other brands, you have to pick and pack. That's what it's known as, right? You pick them a different material and you pack it in a box, and you put that box in another box, and you put tape and you wrap it up, and then you put a label and multiply that by how many products they're doing in a particular day, and it's actually a lot of time. When I go to the warehouse to just check on things, everyone on the floor says, you are our favorite customer because it's so easy. for my day-to-day job.
Wow. Thought of everything.
We tried to.
Yeah. I'd be remiss not to ask this, but have you had any supply chain issues with China given the tariffs and the macro environment?
Of course, we're impacted.
Yeah.
We knew that tariffs were coming, right? I mean, he's been speaking about it for some time. We did not know at this level. We did not think it would be at this level. But we knew it would be disruptive enough that we pretty quickly after knowing that this might be a possibility, started looking at backup supply or suppliers. So we have a factory in Thailand that already has a PO. And there's some other factories that we are, like even our China factory is opening up facilities outside China.
Okay.
We're still impacted. We've been able to renegotiate a bit. We have great partnership with our current factory in China, but it's a mixture of moving some supply down outside the country and then also renegotiating. We will probably have to raise our prices. I mean, we've been operating under that. We haven't raised them yet because we haven't yet gotten the inventory that has been tariffed.
I see.
So we're selling through the other inventory first. And just yesterday, or maybe it was this morning, the administration announced that they're, kind of reduce tariffs to maybe 80%, could be lower. So based upon that, we'll see what we have to do to pricing.
Yeah. And your business, I just given you brought up pricing, I just brought up the business model itself, which I thought was really interesting, again, for a consumer product, which is you obviously have customers purchase the unit, the Jolie shower head, and then you also have a subscription model attached to that because the actual filters need to be replaced, I believe, every 3 months. So was that more a just reaction to the fact that the filters do need to be replaced, or were you thinking more, this is a good way to generate recurring revenue for a business that's consumer that typically?
So that's how it works.
Yeah.
The filter will get clogged. The filter will stop working after a period of time. We thought that 6 months was going to be the duration before one had to change it because we saw that that's what the Amazon product said. But once we started testing it and also using it, right, because we noticed the first week the thing was not working as it was initially, that the longest we could take it to is 3 months.
Okay, I see. But it's been a beneficial business model nonetheless.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We're first purchase profitable, so we built the business stands on its own without it. But for it to really scale, that recurring revenue stream, of course, helps. Builds more trust with the customer that we can deliver over time, literally and figuratively, and allows us to then go into other products. And it was not by design, that's just how the filter works. One thing that does happen, also not by design, should be beneficial to encourage people to change it, is the pressure will decrease if the filter's clogged. Right, the water's just not going to be able to go as it was before.
Right, that makes sense. I guess as we're wrapping up, I think I have 2 final questions for you. One of them is, do you have? Well, it's two-part question. So, one, if you could start this over again, are there any areas where you felt you made a mistake or things you would have done differently? Although you guys are quite successful, but anything you have to look back on? That'd be the first part of the question.
I mean, I think, there's certain things that pop in my head at the moment are, people that have reached out to us. Oh, we'd love to distribute your business to, plumbers because, plumbers are going into homes and they're changing Jolie. And we knew it wasn't right because, again, if you think about we're creating a new category, most people have not heard of a filtered shower head. And if a plumber is the one who's, no disrespect to plumbers, but it doesn't come across as a beauty product. And there was one group locally based where we said, all right, let's give it a go. And it was just a waste of our time. And we weren't being the laser focused way that we normally are. So that was like a small thing that we would have not done. But I mean, there's so many, every day there are small things that, come up. I think this is less about the business and maybe more about personally and hopefully very applicable to anyone that's watching or listening to this is, I've learned that it's often better if you have an idea in your head and you're ultimately presenting it to someone. let's say it's your partner, if you're a founder, your partnership, and you wait for that idea to be perfect in your head, just kind of going back to what we were talking about at the beginning.
Noticing a theme.
Yeah. It's better to get it out earlier and contextualize it as, hey, this is something that's work in progress. I'm going to show you something visual, but don't look at these parts because that's not really applicable. Look at these parts because that's how I'm thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And surfacing things earlier rather than later, whether it's something forward looking that's like an opportunity, or maybe something like an error or problem that pops up that you find, like the earlier you surface things, the better. Particularly in the context of a partnership. And there isn't some like big crazy thing that happened, but I've just noticed these small moments where like, oh, you know what? You didn't have to be nervous at bringing this up a week ago because you brought it up now. You had so many good learnings just from surfacing it that if you had it a week ago, you would have been a week earlier and would have driven things a little bit further. So I think that's, again, highly specific to a partnership. Don't be scared to surface ideas and make it something you're crafting together. Yeah.
I think that's really helpful advice. And I do like the theme of anti-perfectionism because I think it's so important when you are building something to kind of go through that iterative cycle process as opposed to just thinking you're going to be a one shot and done, because it's just really never how it works out. What about, do you have any advice for founders that are just starting out?
Yeah, I think that for those that are thinking about starting something, I mean, it goes back to start something, just start. Take one step. And that's one thing that I look back, I would have done, not this specifically, but I would have, if someone just pushed me, I would have started something. And
had you stopped working in your last job by the time you started this? Or?
There was a little bit of overlap.
Okay.
There was a little bit of overlap.
Because I think that's a tough decision for a lot of people who are considering starting something. It's that fear of, well, if I quit the current opportunity I'm working on now, whether it's, a typical company job or if it's another startup, because those people tend to like to at least have aspirations to begin their own thing. I think there's like this fear of stopping that lucrative existing path and then just going, potentially having that cold start problem where you're like, oh wait, now I have to do the thing. Otherwise I'm in this holding pattern of not working a traditional job and also not starting.
Yeah. It's a tough decision for sure. I don't think it's, if I leave my job and I go start something, and of course timing here matters. If you go start something and you do it for 10 years and it never lifts off and then, quote unquote fails, and then you want to go back to what you were doing before, that time period away might not serve you well. But if it's shorter term, like what's the worst? And I'm, speaking to a particular group of people when I say this, those that are maybe in their career for a little bit of time, they're highly motivated and highly driven, and you leave to attempt to start something, and maybe you leave on bad terms with that company. So that's out, crossed out. You can always get back into the workforce.
Right.
And the experience of taking a leap and starting something, inherently just that, is so worthwhile that it will serve you well. It would be, I think, a worthwhile exercise for everyone to do it as just an experience. I'm not encouraging everyone to do it, but going through that is just going to make you stronger, and you can always go back to what you were doing before, or it's not like then you're going to be homeless.
Right. Now that's a good framing, and I think it's a good thing to keep in mind. But it doesn't sound like you ever had a fear of failure. I think that is something that holds some people back.
I think I didn't have a fear of failure. I certainly, whenever I'm doing something where I'm putting something out there in the world, I want to, it reflects on you, and it can be something as simple as a post, and you can sort of mature and get through things like that, or an event you're hosting, so there's definitely that pressure to like make sure that, it could be something as simple as, oh my God, didn't we have a spelling mistake? And that thing that'd be so like, we're doing TV commercials, and if there's subtitles, definitely have woken up many times in the middle of the night thinking whether it's, do we have enough cash in the bank? Or was there a mistake in the video that we just put live on CNBC? Or we're doing ads. there will always be that, for sure. The fear of, I've never been fearful as a person. I've been more optimistic. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It's interesting. Okay. So last question. What is your most controversial or hottest take? Could be about building a business, could be about life in general.
I think, wow. I'll give you my answer in a moment, and I'm probably going to walk out of this interview and say, oh, I should have said this.
That's why we're unscripted.
Yeah. I think saying no is, and I don't think this is a hot take anymore, but, just reflecting on what we've done with Jolie, say no, don't hire too many people. Try roll up your sleeves, do it yourself, and don't take on too much money. Don't celebrate taking on money. I think maybe that's controversial and a hot take.
Definitely.
I've always found that odd.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm a venture investor, so yeah. I find that odd.
Yeah, exactly. Like celebrate it internally with yourself.
Yeah.
But then it's like, all right, like if I'm giving someone money, get to work, and like don't put a post up that you took money from me.
Mm.
Put a post up that you took money from me and turned it into this.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I really find it very odd. It always have. It feels one-sided.
Yeah.
But the complete story is a beautiful story, assuming that it's done in a way where it's creative. So yeah, I'll make that my hot take.
I love it.
The other thing that I like to do, and it's not a hot take, this was just advice, and I said this yesterday, so I'll say it again today. Whenever I get into moments of feeling overwhelmed or not sure what to do, or I'm completely in my head, is I go on a walk. And that has been like the most amazing medicine for many of the daily things that pop up. And I come back to my desk and I feel refreshed. I'm like energized. And I try to call a friend.
Okay, I was gonna ask you.
Yeah.
Think on the walk. Like, what do you find really helps?
More often than not, I call a friend because people have often said being a founder is a lonely job. Mm. I do think it creates the feeling of loneliness, or the feeling of being stuck, and you might not have a partner to get everything out.
Yeah.
It's very beneficial if you do for that reason. But if you don't, call a friend. And say, you even call a friend and say, because I think people are also scared to, I don't want to, be that person that I always go to my friends and just throw up on them. Yeah. And then it feels like a one-sided friendship. You can always approach, or I found that I could approach them and say, hey, I'm so stuck in my head. I really just can you just be a wall for me for 5 minutes?
Yeah.
And it feels much better when you just get things out. Another thing that helps is write it.
Mm.
Like then it's like you're getting it out of your head and you're putting it on paper. And I've noticed a similar effect to calling a friend and talking about whatever it is.
I recently saw a quote about that. It said, I don't know what I think until I write it down. And I'm like, that resonates so deeply with me. I'm definitely, my thoughts are clearest when I put them down on paper, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I do like that advice. I think it's helpful. I think it takes a minute to convince yourself to spend the time to do it. But
and have fun.
Helpful. Yeah. Throughout the entire process.
Yeah, not every moment is fun, but
yeah.
Try to joke around and make fun of yourself and celebrate. I said don't celebrate raising money, but you can laugh at what you're doing in good ways and bad ways, and be lighthearted about it. Serious but lighthearted.
Yeah.
And stay calm, cool, and collected. That's like the number one thing, actually.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for the time today. This has been amazing. I love hearing about the Jolie story, but also I think all the personal advice and stories along the way are just super inspiring for me, and I know for a lot of people listening to this. So I do appreciate it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Of course.